Tom Woods put out this book, and I'm going to do what Mike Church told everybody to do. I'm going to buy books of Tom Woods, you know, nullification, and I'm going to pass it out at the fireworks in Danvers. I'm just going to be like, yep, here's one, go read up. You know, you want to be, you know, an independent person, you want to be free, well, read this. You know, it's really important. The only problem with me is that I'm probably only going to be able to buy 10 and then pass it out, depending on how much it is. But, you know, here's my part. You know, I'm going to try to, you know, inform people, and I'm going to have to read it myself. But it just came out 2 days ago, from what I understand, and it's already like on number 37 yesterday in Amazon, from what I understand. So we're getting places. People are starting to understand what's going on, and that's a beautiful thing. So, talking about, or let's talk about one of the other big things. What the G20 meeting just happened, and I think it ended Sunday, from what I understand. This was in Toronto, Canada, and basically they've been talking about austerity measures, mostly for Europe, especially Greece. Austerity, boy, is that a great idea. Basically, they're going to have people pay the government, you know, the Greek government, so that they can pay off their debt to the banks. Problem is, the same thing's going to happen here. You realize we're $13 trillion in debt. Now we're up to 13. This is nuts. So we're going to have to do the same thing. And this is what the G20 meeting was all about. We will have to be taxed. If we're not taxed directly, you know, noticeably, then it will be through inflation. That's already happened. We haven't seen the effects yet through prices. Now remember, inflation is not the rise in price. That is the effect of inflation. Inflation is monetary expansion. You know, printing money. Or, you know, just computerized entries. So we're going to have to do the same thing here. So whether it's inflation, taxes, we're definitely going to have to cut spending, finally. But this is the path to freedom at the same time. This is the ironic part. It has to be done. But nobody understands why we shouldn't have inflated and created the Federal Reserve, gone to fiat money, had all of these interest rates rise, you know, arbitrarily in the first place. All of these things have to happen in order to promote Keynesian economics, which is not logical. This is why we had a gold standard, is to prevent all of what will come and what is going to come very soon to Greece. This is what happened to Argentina, Zimbabwe, Germany. The USSR fell for, well, sort of similar reasons, but mostly just what we're doing in Afghanistan. They call Afghanistan the place where empires die. Well, we'll see what happens. Hopefully everything will be okay, but you have to prepare for yourself. And this is why I promote silver, gold, now. Do it now. Anyway, so I also want to talk about, I've rambled a little bit, but this is what the G20 meeting was all about. It's austerity measures, which means cut your spending, raise taxes, get out of debt on the government level. This is why we've had such a great, say, 50 years or 100 years You know, everything was great, the party was going on, but eventually the debt comes due. And the next generation, my generation or my children's generation, will see some tough times. There's no doubt. So, speaking of the G20, there were protests there as well, for probably multiple reasons. But in the end, the way the news has been reported is not totally accurate, as usual. They're saying that anarchists were creating riots and, you know, throwing things into, you know, buildings and, you know, throwing rocks and all this. It's just like what happened last year, what I talked about in the pilot episode, actually. These protests are just, they're not what they seem. They say they're anarchists. Well, if I'm not an anarchist, I'm really close to being an anarchist, and I'm the least violent person I know, pretty much. It's just name calling, and people are starting to understand that the media isn't portraying things accurately. Of course, they've understood this for a long time, but they don't understand that it's propaganda. You know, well, it's splitting hairs. No, it's not. This is propaganda. And this is why I've dived into media resources online as opposed to on TV. The funny thing is, I do a TV show, but I don't watch TV at all. Except for the Red Sox. I have to watch the Red Sox. But, you know, the news is terrible. It's not the news. It's just something that you can buy into. But it's not news. I find news in so many different outlets, independent outlets. So I suggest you do that. They're not anarchists, and those people, it sounds like they're, well, infiltrators. People were worried about infiltrators at the Tea Parties. Thank God that didn't happen, because that happened everywhere in the United States. But we're talking about one specific venue where 20 leaders of the world were going. So they create almost like a, what do you call it? Like, ghetto is the wrong word. It's definitely not a free speech zone. Anyway, they created a cage in Toronto, basically, you know, outlining the whole downtown area. And people that were protesting in there were actually caught by riot police in a circle. The riot police were circling a big group of protesters. And from what I saw in these videos, if you go to The Real News on YouTube or One Stupid Man, I subscribe to these guys. JOSDA 1000 is my YouTube handle. So if you see these videos, they were surrounded. They couldn't get out, though the police were saying, hey, if you don't leave, then you'll be arrested. Well, if you're encircled, how are you going to leave? This is the kind of thing that has been going on for about 3 years at least now. G20s, political conferences, it's just getting ridiculous, and this is what I mean by fascism, okay? This is precisely what I'm talking about. This kind of thing. The immigration stuff, you can search people's papers. This is fascism, guys. And because you weren't exposed to this through the mainstream media, you don't realize you're living in a fascist state. You have to explore. You have to get out of the box. And